This tutorial will show you how to use EDPIV to interrogate images that have very large displacements. So I'll start off by launching EDPIV and loading in the image files that I'll be working with. These are from a homework set that I am using this year, so homework 5 case B1 and 2. And I'll go to evaluation and maximize that window and turn off the grid, and you see the array of data points. Alright, so now if I go to settings, let's turn on multipass. We're going to use 32 by 32 pixel grid. I maximize the search radius, which is the portion of the portion of the correlation that's computed. The maximum is the window size over 2 minus 1, which means that it would be 15. I'll use window shifting, so I'll leave it set on M2. I'll turn on central difference interrogation, continuous window shifting, and image correction using 4 points, and CDIC. Close and start. And let's say we'll do a couple of loops. Let's say 3 loops, and go. Alright, so you'll see the little interrogation window bouncing around the image, and you can kind of keep track of how many loops it's done. So it's coming up on, it's done its loops now. And what you'll notice is these statistics right here. This window shows you convergence statistics, and 6.35 means 635% change between iterations. That's not very converged at all. And the reason is, we look at the vector field. I'll turn it up and zoom in on a portion here. And what we see is, on for moderate displacements, we see a nice looking vector field. But once we exceed some threshold, the vectors are totally noise, just all noise. And the reason for that is the peak in the correlation plane is shifted out of the search radius. So the code can no longer find a signal, and so it chooses randomly some noise peak. Alright, so in order to tell the code where to look for the peak, I can use a window shift file. I can use, let's say, a data file from a previous interrogation. So let's start over again. So I'll launch EDPIV, and I will open my 2 recordings and go to evaluation. And this time I am going to load a displacement. I'm going to load a previous EDPIV file, or the results of a previous interrogation. So I'm going to click load. I will load homework 5 case B.dat. The .dat is an EDPIV file. Actually, before I do that, let's take a look at what that file looks like. So here's what the file looks like. It has a header, and then it has a list of X positions, Y positions, X displacements, and Y displacements, all in pixels. So don't worry about the remaining 4 columns. Alright, we'll go back to EDPIV, and I will load that in. And what you see is a vector field that looks very much like the inner portion of the vector field that we obtained previously. Alright, and in fact, this is the known displacement for these particular images, these particular synthetic images. So, in order to use this vector field as the initial shift file for EDPIV, I need to do one thing, and that is to reshape it properly. So if I go to info, what you see is M0 is the current vector field that's being displayed, and it says there are 3,969 total points there. And notice it says 0 rows and 0 columns, 3,969 vectors. All right, what this means is that I have a list that's 3,969 vectors long. Now, in order to use it as a shift file, I need to reshape it into a row and column, a rectangular format. All right, so notice that M0 has 0 rows and 0 columns. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Memories, and I'm going to save this. So this is M0. What we're currently looking at is M0. I'm going to save it into M1. And then I'm going to go to Interpolation with the data in M1. So I'm going to interpolate the data that's stored in M1. That was my vector field. I'm going to interpolate it back into the current M0, the current vector, the current display. And what you see is something that looks very similar. Right? You don't notice any difference. In fact, there is no difference. All right, now I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it back into M1. So I'm going to save it into M1. Now let's look at the info. So M1 has 4,225 total points, which is 65 rows and 65 columns, and a total of 3,969 vectors. So the reason for this is I have 65 rows and columns, but that's counting, let's say, the 0, 0 row and column. So that would be the array of points that's on the very edge of the image. So there are no measurements at those points. So this 3969 is actually 63 by 63. All right, so don't worry about that too much. The important thing is that the vector field, the displacement field from this previous iteration, has been reshaped into a vector field that I can use as an initial displacement for EDPIV. So I'll close that, and I'll go to my settings. I'll select multipass. I'll keep it on a 32 by 32 pixel window. I'm not even going to maximize the search radius because I won't need to. I put my vector field into M1, so I will select that for window shifting. I'll select central difference interrogation, continuous window shifting, 4-point image correction, and CDIC, central difference image correction. And then I'll click close, and I'll click start. And let's say I'll do 5 iterations, but it's not even going to need 5. So let's go. All right, we'll watch the window bounce around a bit, and it will probably quit here. There it is. It only had to do 2 loops to converge to better than, to better than 3%. So 1.19%. I display that vector file or vector field, and what you see is I've been able to interrogate all the way out to the edges of the image. So there isn't that border of noisy vectors around the vector field. All right, so that's it. That's the end of the tutorial on how to import a window shift file.